16. And we've got an interesting panel of people. Eric will not be with us. He's spending time with his daughter, who was very sick through the week. So our thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family through the struggles they've had this week and the past week before that. So I'll introduce my panel. I'll start with my regular delinquents, for lack of a better word. We'll start with the editor of the Inner Circle Games Network, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to be back. Good to be on the cast. Let's get going. Let's go.
And one of the great writers behind the Inner Circle Games Network, Jared.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Very excited to get talking tonight. And let's get her going.
And appearing out of the gaming perspective for the first time is the legendary man behind the NLG gaming movement, Mr. Stinger, or Mike Mullis. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you boys doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing.
I promise we won't go 3 hours with me on here.
I already got that going with Peter. It's fine.
Peter's going to lose that bet tonight.
Jokes on him.
Yeah.
Mike's going to fall asleep before then. All right.
That C word gets around.
Oh, man. All right. So to kick off our regular segment, the game of the week, Jared will be tackling this one. I know I dropped it on him like 6 hours before the podcast started because I'm a good guy like that. Awesome. So Jared, take it away.
Plenty of time. Can you guys guess what I'm gonna use for my game of the week at all? I probably could.
You told us what you were considering, so that's not really a fair guess.
I've got cash money on Vermintide because that's all.
There you go. That's exactly what it is. It's Vermintide 2. I've been playing a lot of it ever since it first came out. I didn't actually purchase the game, but I got it on Game Pass, which it came out on day and date on Game Pass. Absolutely wonderful. Some of the main points I took away from it from my first initial impressions was that there's a lot more to it than what meets the eye, basically. You got 5 heroes, same 5 from the original one, but then they also got 3 different classes per hero, which each all have their own respective talent trees. So each character has like its own type of play style if you ever want to change it up a little bit, all that fun stuff. There's 20 plus different types of enemies. There's 50 plus different types of weapons in it as well. There's 10 levels, and I can't even express how beautiful this game actually is, especially playing on like the Xbox One X or like a high-end PC, something like that. It's just absolutely stunning. It runs on the Bit Squid game engine, which I haven't really heard about, but it's actually owned by Fat Shark Games themselves out of Stockholm, Sweden. And it's just a really fantastic 4-person co-op game to play. You can play it by yourself or with AI bots as well, or you can play with 3 players, 4-player co-op sort of thing. And it's just a really gore-tastic time with your friends. But I seriously can't express enough that people should at least give it a try. And if you like it, buy the game, support the developers, because it's definitely one that I think you should have in your catalog of games so you can play with your friends.
But is it as good as Earthfall?
Way better. Way better. Earthfall is just a...
Oh, okay, we're not getting into that. I have to mention this because Dan brought it up in the chat. I just
You really don't. You really don't.
I want to give a quick rest in peace to the shortest game launch in history, to The Culling 2, which lasted a grand total of 8 days before they pulled it off the marketplace, and its highest concurrent players on PC was 21. 21 people.
Oh.
Finally, a game Lawbreakers did better than.
I was just going to say that too. Lawbreakers did better than The Culling 2.
Yeah. So shout out to the developers who pulled it off the marketplace, apologized, and said they're going to bring back the original Culling as a free-to-play game.
So all of this was really just a marketing stunt for the first game? Is that what I'm understanding here?
Okay.
Yes, it's like the IHOP thing.
I will give credit I will give credit where credit is due. They refunded anyone that purchased the game, so all 30 people got their money back.
I mean, I just don't get it.
I don't understand. Like when I saw that trailer, like you and me covered it on the Inner Circle. I was like, "Hey, the Culling's coming out with a trailer for the game that drops tomorrow," and you're like, "You're joking, right?"
Yeah, I was like, "Ha, good one."
The sequel nobody asked for. But anyways, yeah, rest in peace that game. Yeah, Vermintide 2, I've got to jump into it at some point.
I do too. I need to jump in with you guys. One of my brothers has been playing it, and looking over his shoulder, that is a gorgeous game.
It is.
Like, holy crap, it looks really good considering how many like Skaven and stuff they've got on screen at one time. It's crazy.
Smooth. I actually haven't experienced any lag in it whatsoever.
No,
nothing.
Not yet. It definitely looks better than the first one. By like a mile.
The first one felt more like a really like quick port. You know what I mean? And this one looks like it was more fleshed out than
very
because those games have always kind of shined on PC as a lot of games do. But it's good that they got a good console port for the game, and it has been very, very well received. I've seen a lot of people on my friends list playing it.
I'm telling you, it's the Game Pass effect. Having that come to day and date on Game Pass, that I'll guarantee you this, I bet their sales will be higher than they would have otherwise if it hadn't been on Game Pass.
It's so weird before we kick into backwards compatibility, we might as well talk about Game Pass because why the hell not? We got 3 hours. It's amazing because like I always sat there and I was one of those people when they brought out Game Pass. I was like, well, people aren't going to buy games, but they're going to, it's membership costs and it's going to be better revenue, but they're going to lose some game sales over it. All my friends that have Game Pass, they'll try out a game on Game Pass and then buy that game immediately, but they'll keep their Game Pass membership as well.
Exactly.
Like I've got a friend of mine. He's on a 12-month Game Pass subscription and he's buying every game that comes day and date to Game Pass. I'm like,
why?
I honestly, like when City Skylines came to Game Pass, he bought it like within 3 days of trying it. It's almost like some people are using it as almost like a trial to try out a game and then be like, okay, I'm ready to invest in this. But if you've already got the 12 months membership, like I have Sea of Thieves through Game Pass and I play it with Anchor whenever he drags me in to play it. But I haven't bought it. I don't plan on buying it because I've got God knows how many months of Game Pass stocked up, thanks to those $1 deals. But it's interesting to see how the casual market affects how successful Game Pass is. We've seen it with State of Decay 2, which is a game that I never thought would be as successful as it was. Sea of Thieves did insanely well, and it'll be interesting to see what else.
Well, it's shown. Like the success of Game Pass is shown, not just from player base of the State of Decay 2 and Sea of Thieves sort of thing, but and also the recent financial earnings too. Like the last fiscal quarter, whatever, an insane increase, an insane.
I've never seen it. Just I don't do a lot of business financials. I did it for school, but 39% increase in your gaming division profitability. That's pretty much unheard of.
That's on the back of the services.
Exactly. Yeah. And let me blow your minds here. That's higher than Nintendo's gaming revenue.
Yes. Yes.
And the Switch has been on fire.
See, before we hop into backwards compatibility, I'm going to say this. Sony has done a great job this generation in selling people consoles.
Yes.
And what Microsoft has decided to focus in on is instead of trying to sell people consoles, they're trying to they're trying to get people that bought their consoles to spend more money on those consoles. And that's kind of the difference in game plan you see between the two companies, and why you also see, like, if you start looking at revenue per console and everything else, Xbox, as a general rule of thumb, sells more, doesn't sell software as a total more, but the individual users are buying more software and memberships and everything else than on the PlayStation side thing. Now that gets weighed out because, you know, out of an 80 million install base, obviously PlayStation's going to have a lot more casual users and blah, 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 blah. Disclaimer here, disclaimer there. Don't clip this 30-second bit of a podcast to make me look like a moron on Twitter later. But basically, it's just really cool to see how all three of these companies are doing something completely different. Microsoft is focusing in on the services, like the services, and trying to get people to try different things. And like there's different games going into Game Pass, and people might be trying games that they haven't tried before. Sony's hitting you with those exclusives that are like, whew. And Nintendo's got this whole handheld market like locked down. I don't think we're ever going to see Sony and Microsoft want to step into that arena again.
No, Microsoft never is going to step into that. They don't have to. They don't have to.
Well, yes, they will, but not in the way people are saying. They're not going to make a dedicated handheld. No, they're just going to have it so if you're subscribed to Game Pass, you can hook up a controller to your phone via Bluetooth and you can stream games. That's what they're going to do.
I still foresee the shocker next year. Reggie Fils-Aimé is out on stage. He's talking about the Switch and all the new services that you can do. And then Phil walks out on stage, taps him on the shoulder, announces that you can play your Xbox games on an app on the Switch, and then the crowd goes wild.
I thought you were going to say come out and announce the Switch Box 1.
Nah. I just think with all it's funny that those are the two companies that are getting along right now. So it seems like it would be.
I never thought I'm fairly young, so I'm not as invest in like the Sega versus Nintendo and like all those like the older console war stuff. It's always been like the Xbox versus PlayStation for me. But I never thought in my mind would Nintendo ever partner with Microsoft. I always thought if Nintendo was ever going to partner with someone, it would be Sony.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and they almost did. Remember, that's how the PlayStation got started. They had a deal with Nintendo to make the Super Nintendo CD player. And that got nixed by Nintendo. And so Sony, being scorned, went off and made the PlayStation. I mean, that's how that got started. So in a way, Nintendo kind of never. I mean, they've been Sony's enemy for a long time. That's a big part of the history of how the PlayStation came to be.
See, that's interesting because, I know for myself and a lot of the people that watch my podcast, because I know a lot of people that watch my podcast are generally in my age demographic. We don't know the history that far back. I'm going to go off a general rule of thumb here. Sam, Jared, what were your first consoles you played on?
Go ahead, Jared. Go ahead.
Nintendo Entertainment System.
Okay.
First one.
Mine was the Nintendo 64. I didn't actually own it, though. My cousins owned it. I just got to play it a lot. The first console that I owned was my original Xbox.
Yeah, see, first console I ever played was, gonna say the N64. And because my family was a PC family,
mm-hmm.
And first console I ever owned was the GameCube. And then it went GameCube, and then I bought a Wii, and I decided that the Wii was a little too casual for my liking, and then I went PlayStation, and then Xbox, and now I just own too many game consoles.
That sounds about right.
But I still think my favorite gaming memories is with Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis at my dentist's office.
Nice. Yeah,
trying to see how many levels I could speed run before getting my teeth drilled every time.
At my dentist's office, they actually had it so when you're leaning back in the chair, you can look up, you can either watch TV or they give you the controller and you can play the Nintendo as they're doing work in your mouth.
Oh my God, that's the best.
It did not work out very well because it would either be painful or you wouldn't be able to do anything because you'd be too distracted. So you would be messing up all the time.
All right, so we're going to dive into the main topic of this episode, which is backwards compatibility. Now, there's a lot of people that have mixed feelings about backwards compatibility. Some people it's a big deal. Some people it's not a big deal. Some people would prefer to keep the original hardware and play it that way. Some people like having it all on one console, everything else. So backwards compatibility has been a thing for a long time. Mike might be able to remember off the top of his head what the first backwards compatible console was.
That would be the Xbox 360, actually. Well, no, not this. No, the PS2 originally had PS1 backward compatibility, so that's not that's it. Unless the only other thing you could possibly count, which is not technically backwards compatibility, was the ColecoVision had an adapter to let you play Atari 2600 games. But other than that, really, no forward system until you got to the PS2 really was backward compatible with a previous system.
See, once again, one of my favorite gaming memories, it's not backwards compatible, but one of the best things I remember with the Nintendo GameCube was that little deck you could put on the underneath where you could play Game Boy games.
Yeah, mine's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still have that. I will never give that up. But first time I remember using backwards compatibility, and I thought it was like the coolest thing, was actually pretty much at the same time. It was with my Nintendo Wii, because it could play the GameCube games, which was I thought was awesome because I got rid of my GameCube stopped working. I bought a Wii, and I was like, oh, I can just play my Wii games on this, and I can play my GameCube games. This is pretty cool. I also bought one of the Fat Boy PS3s, which had the backwards compatibility for the PS2 games.
Yep.
I was like, this is a great feature because, like, growing up, like, with having PCs in the family and my brothers being mainly into PC gaming, I didn't get a lot of console options because they were the PC mustard race types that, like, you didn't bring a console into the house. So, like, when I got a PS3 Fat Boy, I was like, I need to start playing some of these PS2 games, and started doing that. And, like, I think backwards compatibility is really cool, especially if you miss out on a console. Like, people that are picking up an Xbox One for the first time and get to go back and play, like, OG Xbox games and, like, Xbox 360 games, that's cool that you can access your whole library through that. But there's never consistently been a console that's always backwards compatible.
Yeah, I was going to mention, like, isn't Xbox, at least this generation, been the most embracing for backwards and almost compatibility?
See, the thing with Xbox's backwards compatibility and why I remember, I think I remember talking to Mike about this, actually. Yeah. One thing that I hated about Xbox 360 backwards compatibility right off the hop was they weren't dishing out any of the good games. It felt like they were dishing out the shovelware games, whereas, like, backwards compatibility before that point, for me at least, I remember, like, for example, with the Wii, it was just like, okay, insert the disc and away you go, and that was like great backwards compatibility.
But there's a reason for that, and that's what the PlayStation 2 and the fat PlayStation 3 did so well. They took the some of the innards from the previous console and put them in the system. So what you had in the PS2 and the fat PS3 was hardware compatibility. There was an emotion engine in the PS3, which they later took out to drop the price. But that's why you could just simply put a PS2 disc in and play it on the PS3, because the actual chipset was there.
That's why fat PS3s nowadays are much more valuable than the non-fat.
Absolutely.
They're still in the same price.
Because you've got two consoles in one, basically.
Yeah.
It really is.
That's a good point.
You know, what's happened now is, and it started with the Xbox 360, they're relying on software backward compatibility because you have to emulate this stuff. You don't have the same, you don't have the same platform that you had previously. And if you're not going to put the actual chipset into the console, you have to do it another way. So emulation is how you do it. What I don't understand is why the emulators are not universal. One of the things that I mean, I love having backward compatibility, but the reason that I still, for example, have an OG Xbox is because the game selection on it, while growing, is still not even close to anything that's substantial for me. And to a lot of ways, the Xbox One, the 360 backward compatibility, I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of shovelware in there too. and you get a good game here and there mixed around the shovelware.
Yeah,
and so that kind of hinders it for me.
Mhm.
I still like it, but it's limited.
Yeah, I agree with you in that fact because like I don't have an OG Xbox. I wish I did. I honestly did because there's so many games I played at friends' houses and whatnot that I'd love to dive back into that aren't backwards compatible through Xbox One. Like I still have an Xbox 360 and I still find myself, even if it's backwards compatible, I'll still boot up my 360 to play it. I don't know why. I'm not sure if it's a weird thing or it's just, there's something about playing the 360 game with the 360 controller and everything else. It's like, I did not touch an OG Xbox backwards compatible game until I got my Duke controller last month. Now I can't stop playing them, but there's something, yeah, there's just something about how you play it. Now, we've seen a big push for backwards compatibility from Microsoft this generation. And I put this question to you guys now. Do you think backwards compatibility is more important now because people are so invested in digital software versus physical software? Do you think because we've gone mainly digital, that's why people are caring more about backwards compatibility now versus back in the day when you just had your collection and you could keep your original hardware and yada, yada, yada?
I'd say so.
I think it's certainly a strong driving force. It may not be the only factor. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. But, you know, the reality is some of these discs are hard to come by. You know, there were only, just as an example, even a popular game that sold well, there were only so many copies of Morrowind on the Xbox printed. And if you can't get one, what are you going to do? If it was just disc only, well, you're screwed. But then making it available digitally, okay, perfect. And the fact that they're so committed to this means no matter what happens, no matter how hardware breaks down, discs get corrupted, whatever, if you have a digital copy of that game, you'll be able to carry it forward on your Microsoft account forever and ever.
Yeah.
You'll always have that.
You're
no
not
matter
losing
what.
that initial money investment that you kind of put into the games and stuff already, right? You invest so much money into your gaming library, whether it be disc or digital, but all the people that put all the money into a digital library, all of a sudden, let's say they go into the next generation and there's no backwards compatibility. Okay, well, I just spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in the last generation, but I want to end up playing these games on the new console. So do I keep my old one or sell it off to pay for the new one, sort of thing? It can be a little conflicting, but having the backwards compatibility and, you know, their statement of forward compatibility now too kind of makes the person feel reassured that they're not losing out on all that money that they have invested into their games.
Yeah. For me personally, I bought physical everything up until this generation. My PS3 games, my Xbox 360 games, I had 250 PS3 games. I had almost 400 Xbox 360 games that were all stolen by my scumbag roommate. Shout out to him. I hope he gets hit by a car somewhere.
Put it nicely.
He's got a copy of Oblivion that's signed by Pete Hines somewhere in a box somewhere.
Oh man. We're all just cringing at that one, going, "Oh, yeah, come on!"
So
and now that Pete's a big media guy.
Yeah,
his signature's worth a little more.
Yeah. But this generation, when I bought my Xbox One, what correlated with me buying my Xbox One is I had my first daughter, and when you have kids, discs all of a sudden become a very, very, very risky hazard. I still buy like games that I really enjoy. Like I can look on my shelf right now. I've got Secret of Mana. I've got Kingdom Come Deliverance. I've got Last of Us. I've got like the really good games that I really enjoy. I still will buy physical copies for, but I've got 600 digital games on Xbox One and probably about 250 on PS4. And if I can't carry those forward with me, that would suck because they're physically locked digitally into the console. I can't sell them. I can't get rid of them. They're sitting on a hard drive. And if my Xbox One X 5 years down the road dies, they're gone. And
unless they shut that down, or you can't get another Xbox One.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting question because, as Sam was saying, there's multiple factors that go into this. I actually have a different thought. I'm not so sure. It's so much, or at least for me, it's so much buying the digital copies of things because I can always play them on the console that I have it on. It doesn't mean I have to get rid of that. I think where we're going to run into this as a problem is because we're getting into iterative consoles here. We're getting into a console every 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years. And so, if you're spending $500 on an Xbox One and then $500 more on an Xbox One X, 4 years down the line, and then, whenever the next Xbox comes out and so on and so forth, now that we're shortening the time between consoles, I think that makes it more of an issue that ties into Rage, the buying your library and expecting your library to move forward because well, now you've made me spend $1,500 on 3 consoles, and now you're going to make me rebuy the games too. So we're the Xbox 360 backward compatibility stopped very quickly because you went 6 years and nobody really cared enough about the old games, and if you wanted to play the old games, you had your Xbox, your OG Xbox. And I think still we haven't gotten to where, I think we're just getting to where some really good games are coming into Xbox 360 backward compatibility. And one of them actually that caught me by surprise was Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, which one of my favorite Ghost Recon games of all time. And shout to my man Christian Allen, who that was his baby. But that game, come to find out, I was playing it with some friends the other night, and I'm playing it on the Xbox One X, and I said to them, I said, guys, something's up with this game. This game doesn't feel like it felt back then. It feels like they did something to improve the game that they say they don't do. And come to find out, they unlocked the frame rate in GRAW, and while the original Xbox 360 runs at 30 frames per second, the Xbox One X ran at 60. And I thought, man, I don't remember it like this. And sure enough, that's what it did. So in those cases, the backward compatibility, when it can actually enhance the experience, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But we need more games. I mean, we need more. I would say of my library, it's still less than 5% of my library. That's backward compatibility.
Are you talking about for 360 or original Xbox?
For 360.
Really? There's over 400 backwards compatible 360 games. That's surprising.
Yes, because the Streets of Rage collection, or Pac-Man. There aren't as many of the high quality titles yet that are, it's all the indie games that are pulling forward right now, and the smaller games. In amongst a Raw or in amongst a Oblivion or something like that, but they're just not coming at the clip that I thought they would be.
I don't know. It's just, I mean, respectfully, I kind of disagree, because it's like, I think to myself, okay, what are the big 360 titles I played? It's like they got Oblivion, check. They got Fallout 3 in New Vegas, check. The Dead Space games, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, all those are there. So EA's pretty covered a lot of the old racers, some
all
like LA
Assassin's Creed games, those are all there.
All the Assassin's Creed games. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, I'm not saying you're wrong at all, Mike. I'm just saying it's surprising to hear someone say
I think and like, I don't mean this as a knock against me or Sam, but I think Mike has a very different taste in games than we might have when it came to what we were playing in 360 versus what Mike was playing in 360 era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know my brother says the same thing about 360 backwards compatibility. What's the game he's always on about? Is Max Payne not backwards compatible?
None of the Max Paynes are.
That's what it was. He says he won't be happy with the program until there's a Max Payne game backwards compatible.
I mean, I'm just looking at some of my games now from what I can see, with my horrible vision apparently. The orange box is not.
Oh yeah.
Ninja Gaiden 2 is not.
The orange box is.
What is it? Are you sure? Oh, that's right. They did make that. I think they did.
The orange box. Yeah, I was about to say.
That is the best bundled game ever, by the way.
I could have sworn it was.
Hold on, I'm looking. View as a text list.
Hey, at least we're all going to be thankful that they have a division dedicated to backwards compatibility games and bringing them to the current generation.
Okay, I'm sorry. The orange box is my fault. But still, Ninja Gaiden 2, Fight Night, Full Auto, which is, man, I went back and played that the other day. All-Star Football 2000 2K8, one of the great 2K football games. Rumble Roses, which is a great one of the old. Who made that? Is that Konami? Is that a Konami?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Konami.
So I mean, it's starting to grow, and like I said, we now get a Graw. We now get some. But if I'm looking across this list, yes, if you're a Call of Duty guy, except the one that I have, which is Modern Warfare 3, which is not on the list, then yeah, you're okay. But I would say there's still a lot of my collection that I can't use.
And that's fair. That's totally fair.
I wonder if part of the reason why some of those games aren't backwards compatible, like especially when it comes to things like Konami, I wonder if that has something to do with the company's policy in general about bringing those games, because I know they said licensing was a nightmare for some of the backwards, like especially the OG backwards compatible games. I watched it in the interview. I can't remember who it was with, but they said Jade Empire was one of the largest struggles because of the BioWare tie down with that and what they were allowed to release and blah 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 blah, and IP issues and yada yada,
and music issues and
right.
stuff
Music
like that.
issues is a big one.
Music issues is what mainly hits the racing games and the sports house, which is why I'm surprised that what was the racer from Rockstar that they recently got? Midnight Club. Yeah, I was shocked they got that one.
I was shocked.
And again, that's not the one that I have. Midnight Club LA is not the one that I've got. So it's like that's awesome. If you now I got to go out and find Midnight Club LA, but Midnight Club Dub Edition, Midnight Club 3, nope.
Those are huge games too. Like they're massive. That's all. Growing up, that's all my friends could talk about with playing those games for years.
Yeah. So that's my issue. It's still spotty to where it should be everything. It should be the entire library, and it's not. And that's just.
Do you think? And now I phrase this because I am going to do a little bit of rant at the end of this podcast by talking next generation. But do you think with the next generation, I was gonna say Xbox because we don't know what's in Sony's cards for what how they're going to handle their library going forward. Do you think with the next Xbox, it's just going to be the all Xbox One games are backwards compatible with the new system?
I think whatever you can run on your Xbox One right now, you'll be able to run on whatever the next Xbox console is. So all your Xbox One games and whatever 360 and OG titles are backwards compatible now, you'll also have those.
Agreed. And Sony's going to do the same thing. They can't afford to. I've said this now for a while. You're on PC hardware now. You can customize it and you can tweak it, but you're on PC hardware now. They're not moving from that. We're not getting another cell We're not getting another power PC. We're not that those days are over of a console going through multiple hardware types. We're at a point where, in order for them to compete with PC, which is ultimately what the consoles want to continue to do, they have to be on par so they're not left behind, which is part of why we're getting to the iterative console bit. So you're going to see these consoles stay on PC hardware for the foreseeable future, and as long as that's happening, there's no reason for it to not be backward or forward compatible. Even if you move to Ryzen, even if you move to another CPU, they're all still going to be compatible.
Well, that's I mean, you can get more powerful. Not to cut Sam off there, like a jerk, but for example, my PC, it's GTX 1070, and I run a Ryzen i7. It's mid. I'm gonna say middle of the line. I can't do 4K or anything crazy, but I get pretty decent performance out of it. You want to know what I've been playing? Dark Forces.
Oh, I love that game. Oh,
I've been using a $1,200 computer to play DOS games.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's some of those age really, really well, dude.
Oh, they do. They really do. Like Dark Forces really stood out on its own back then.
As soon as I bought a PC, I went on Steam. I picked up Dark Forces. I picked up Baldur's Gate 2, which I will never shut up about. This is like the 4th podcast I've mentioned it on.
Speaking of backward compatibility, bring me Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, for crying out loud.
Oh, good Lord, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the licensing that they would have to get into for that one, but seriously, make it happen all the same. Yeah. But what I wanted to go back to, if you don't mind me taking over here for a moment, Nick, is regarding Sony. I think there's an interesting discussion there because I think we can all agree they've got to have bare minimum PS4 backward compatibility.
Yes.
Right? I mean, not having that would be monumentally stupid in the age we're in, with service-based games like Rainbow Six Siege, Fortnite, for God's sakes, GTA 5 charting every month. I mean, they have to.
Yeah.
But here's the question. What about PS3 and backward beyond that?
I don't. That's a very 50-50 in my mind because they so invested in their current ways for their current software and going in the future. They don't seem to really want to look at the past. But with the current community demand from the PlayStation fans for their backwards compatibility, I can see them. Okay, we'll give you backwards compatibility, but it's going to start next generation and only going from PS4 to PS5 sort of thing, and then maybe they might start working on emulations for the previous console generations too. But even then, that's going to take a lot of work for them to do that.
Plus, they have PS Now.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like, how does PS Now fit into all that?
Look, I've been on the record saying this. I did a YouTube video on this a year and a half ago. People can scroll down the damn channel and look at a video I uploaded almost 2 years ago now. And that in order for PlayStation Now will become PlayStation's Game Pass eventually, but they got to overhaul it. They've got to make serious changes. And from my understanding is they can't do the game downloads with the PS3 games. That's why they're streamed. Right. Is they can't do the hardware physically does not mesh.
I mean, emulation is a nightmare. You can't do it on a high-end PC rig right now.
But with the push forward with internet, I don't know about anyone else, but even where I live, fiber is becoming the standard. I think with PS Now, they'll eventually, the PS4 games that are on PS Now will be downloadable. I think they'll move away from the streaming side of things. Mm-hmm. Because in order to compete, because Game Pass and PS Now are the same price. And PS Now actually offers a lot of value. There's 500 games, I think, on PS Now.
There's a lot on that.
There's 650.
650. Thank you, Sam.
The vast majority are PS3 games. Then there's I think they said at one point there were going to be PS2 and PS1 games, and they just didn't add them. Unless I'm horribly misremembering that, and I'm sure someone will let me know if I am.
I'm sure someone will tweet at me and call me names about it.
Right. And then they started adding PS4 games, but not many of them. There's 15 or so.
Yeah. Well, we knew that. We knew they weren't going to start giving out any of their heavy hitters into PS Now. That wasn't going to happen. But like PS Now's got a really good catalog of games. Like it's an impressive catalog that they keep adding to.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is I'm not going to say 90% of the population. There's a good percentage of the population that does not have stable internet enough to stream video games in a consistent quality. And that sucks. I truly believe if you could download games on PS Now, like download them on console and play them like Game Pass, everyone would have a PS Now membership. Because there's an insane, like you can play all the God of Wars, you can play Metal Gear Solids, there's a plethora, just astronomical amount of games in that back catalog. I'm pretty sure all the Resistance games are in there. Like there's huge amount of games on there, but everyone's turned away because it's streaming. There's input lag because it's streamed. There's so many issues that people don't want to drop. I think it's like $120 for a year.
It's just not worth it.
It's $100. It's $100 for a year, but it's $20 a month. It's not priced the same as Game Pass.
No, I mean it's a discount for a year, but even then, it's like, ugh. And the thing is, Nick, not all of us, America in particular, is not getting fiber optic right now. Like where I live, if you can get 25, 30 down, 5 up, 10 up, you've got great internet. So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see, I'm sitting on 700 down and like a couple hundred up right now. So like,
yeah, I'm at 150 down and about 15 to 20 up, sort of thing.
Yeah. And I still don't have PS Now. I have the internet. I could do it. It's just another membership I don't want to pay money for, basically.
Yeah. Now the big game changer for PS Now, in my mind, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree, is as soon as they enable to download those games onto your console to play them instead of streaming them, I think that's really gonna, in my mind, bring up the value, because then I don't have to worry about streaming the game when connection speed, the quality of the game, what it's going to look like. I mean, I could just download it, play it at full console quality, the way it should be.
Yeah. And I'm in this mixed feeling because I like backwards compatibility where I can just insert the disc and go if I already own it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like, I don't like it, but I like the fact that I can buy classic PS2 games on the PS4. And like backwards compatibility for those games would be amazing. But I think by selling them back to people for $10, it isn't the worst way of doing it, since those games are locked away on hardware that they really can't mess around with at this point. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I bought my PS4 back a year and a half ago, and you want to know the first 3 games I bought on it? Manhunt, Twisted Metal, and there was another one I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was Destroy All Humans.
Both of those are good.
Yeah, and
Destroy All Humans is good.
Yeah, like those games like define growing up with my friends. Like for me, it's a huge nostalgia trip, and I am a huge nostalgia nerd. Like I'll walk into a retro game shop and just sit there and just breathe happily for like an hour, not be able to afford to buy anything, but
that $350 copy of Magic Knight Ray Earth for the Saturn.
I've got an inbox copy of Conker's Bad Fur Day, which I will never get rid of. That will forever sit in my closet and be a pride moment for me. But
someone heard Conker.
Damn kids. They love Conker. So with backwards compatibility, it's going to be a thing that going forward, I think a lot of companies are going to do. It's kind of interesting, though, is Microsoft is now the biggest push for backwards compatibility. And Nintendo's just like, they've had it for such a long time. And now they're just like, who needs this?
Yeah, they seem like they kind of given up a little bit on it. But I think it's just great value to have in the first place for your system in general, right? You're not restricting your platform to just one generation anymore. You got access to everything from all generations. You go, hey, I feel like I can play this game, or I want to play this game from way back in the on the OG Xbox. I'll just go down my list, click it, and start playing. I don't have to worry about if the disc is going to work or anything like that. Don't have to worry about finding a console if I don't have it, sort of thing. I don't have to worry about buying it again. I can just
it's almost like the convenience of PC gaming in a console format, because like one game that I'll endlessly enjoy is Sid Meier's Pirates. I will always play that game. I will always love that game, and it is timeless to me. And I bought that on Steam, and it was like graphics requirements, video card, other system requirements. It was like 1 megabyte of RAM. I'm
oh man.
And like you didn't have to worry about it. Just booted it up. I played. I had fun. It was great. And like I think that with like backwards compatibility, it's just giving console goers that experience. I think what Xbox is trying to do and trying to bring their catalog forward is a really good idea. But as Mike said, it's hard for them to get everything and keep everyone from that generation happy with it, because there's people like Mike who had different tastes through the generations and have a different interest in certain games, and those games may not be coming through the pipes. Like anything Konami's done is sitting collecting dust, unfortunately. A lot of Rockstar's games are sitting in the back. I want Max Payne to become backwards compatible because I've only played the first one. I want to play 2 and 3, but my 360 is a pain in the arse to use some days. But
my Dead or Alive 4 sitting up there too.
Dead or Alive 4. Back when it had good boob physics.
See, now you guys see that's the problem. You guys all have me looking, and now I'm getting depressed.
Welcome to the gaming perspective. Slide into depression by the end of the episode. But yeah, I think I think it's a huge thing, because like looking back, there were so many games that I know that if companies went back and like even if Sony went back and said, we're making a bunch of PS2 games backwards compatible, I know a lot of the games I love from PS2 would not get that treatment because they were either very small titles or they were quote unquote niche titles. For perfect examples, a game I played on PS2 was called Radiata Stories, and it was by Square Enix. And it was a really like small JRPG, and it was I spent hundreds of hours on that game. But it'll never become backwards compatible. It'll never be remastered. It's just a game that I have to dream about constantly and look on eBay and look at the $189 copies for. And that sucks. And I think backwards compatibility solves a lot of those issues. And I think all in all, it's a good thing. But I hope going forward, it's a more thought out and all around. What's the word I'm looking for? Comprehensive. That's the word. Comprehensive. In what comes forward with you. Like, I don't want next generation to start, and out of my 700 Xbox One games, I don't want only 150 of them coming with me. And
I don't think you need to worry about that, though. Certainly not.
I don't think I do either. But that's just the thing for me. It's like I don't only want the most popular games to come with me, right? And
they're all coming.
Yeah.
Especially on the Xbox side, that's guaranteed.
Yeah, you do not have anything to worry about with this.
It just becomes the question is what's Activision going to do with the lack of the ability to sell us remasters?
They're still going to try.
They're going to try.
That's why they're cashing in right now. That's why they're trying so hard. Although, I'll be honest, I'm surprised, just a quick spin-off topic here, that the Modern Warfare 2 remaster hasn't been shown yet, considering that was the big leak, right? And all the other leaks regarding Black Ops 4 were correct.
Do you think they're holding that one in the bag because Black Ops 4 was actually well received? Do you think they're keeping that in their back
It's
pocket?
been well received. What did I miss?
Or I was just gonna actually bring up. Do you guys remember when Call of Duty 4 came bundled with Infinity War?
It was
it did.
Yeah,
but they
Infinity
were
War, right?
in Infinite Warfare.
Infinity War.
Yeah,
Infinity War.
but that would have been a much better game. That would have been a much better game. But no, I'm just surprised they haven't unveiled that. But no, Activision is going to cash in on remasters while they still can.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like I was gonna say, wasn't that remaster was confirmed because didn't they say they weren't bringing the multiplayer back? It was just gonna be the single player.
That was the leak. That was the leak. Is that it was a $30 game, and if you got it separately from like the deluxe edition of Black Ops 4, and that it was just gonna be the campaign, no multiplayer. And I'm beginning to wonder if they're saving it for next year. At this point.
Well, they've got Treyarch's Call of Duty, so the next one up would be Infinity Ward, so that would make sense for them to bundle it with an Infinity Ward game.
Yeah, right.
Because the COD 4 was bundled with an Infinity Ward game, which was Infinite Warfare, which we do not talk about.
Yeah, it was pretty pricey for.
I don't want to talk about it. I did numerous Twitter rants saying that I wasn't not going to support Activision and everything else, but guess who the dumb arse was that bought it day one? This guy.
Anyways, moving on.
Actually, the campaign wasn't bad.
Still good.
Kit Harington was really good as a villain. I actually really enjoyed that. But that was the only high point, unfortunately. Well, I guess then them Activision paying like a couple $1 million to have Conor McGregor punch you a couple times in the face was kind of nifty, but nah. So backwards compatibility, that's pretty much wraps that up. So we're getting into the grumpy part of the podcast where I get to sound like a grumpy old man shouting at kids on my lawn. I got kids' toys going off in the background. So my Twitter feed, I cleaned up last week. I unfollowed 100+ people because, good Lord, some people need to go outside.
Yes, they do.
Still, all I am getting is damn PS5 and Xbox Scarlet tweets in my feed. I've talked with Eric about this. I've talked with Sam about this. There is nothing more annoying to me than console hype cycles. I will say this endlessly. I enjoy my Xbox One X. It's fun. It does what it needs to. It plays my games better. It does everything they promised it would. But the 1.5 year hype cycle for that console, after a year, I was just about, can someone just shoot me or bring out the console? I'm so over hype cycles on consoles. I find AAA game hype annoying enough as it is. I feel like people latch onto one game and then they miss like 8 really good games that slide under the radar. And that annoys me in itself. It's like I see people that are like, oh, I can't wait for this AAA game in December. I'm like, it's July. And there's like 20 other great games that are coming out. And you're focusing on one game that's coming out in December that everybody's going to buy. Why do you need to hype it? I don't understand. Like, I will sit there and I will scream from the roof that everyone needs to go buy Overcooked 2 when it comes out in August, because that is one of the best co-op games that I've ever played.
You had ghosts haunting your toys back there or something?
I don't know. It's freaking me out. Like,
shoot, that's funny.
I don't understand hype cycles. Like, I understand being excited for something. Like, you will not find anyone who is more excited about when Skyrim came out. I remember when Skyrim came out when I was in high school, we were like, it's a sequel to Oblivion. This is going to be the best thing ever. And like, there was like a whole like group of us in high school that like skipped class to go pick up the game. And we spent like the next like 3 months playing it, and we were hyped about it. We wouldn't stop talking about it. And it was fine. But like, this social media hype cycle that's endless, that always needs to be hyping something. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like there
Oh,
always
yeah,
needs
yeah,
to
yeah.
be something.
Yeah, that's you can thank Apple for that.
He's not wrong.
This
Mike's
is where
not
we're
wrong.
at. This is Apple's doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just gonna say, like, Bethesda kind of does it right. They don't do their hype cycles very much because they'll announce a game and we know it's going to end up coming out later that year. We're not going to be waiting a year and a half, 2 years, 3, 4 years of watching trailers and seeing it year after year at E3 or whatever event it's at and being like, okay, it just got delayed again. Is it going to come out? It just got delayed again. Is it going to come out? Oh, hey, it's got a release date for a year and a half down the road. Like, come on. I really like Bethesda's approach where, okay, we kept it under wraps. We've been working on it. And there's some leaks or whatever, but then you're not waiting a long time for it to come out. Now, I also really liked how with the Xbox One X, we found out earlier, it was that year, that like, okay, it's coming out actually. Well, they were announcing the release date later that year. They showed it off, that sort of thing. And then at Gamescom, like, hey, it is now available now, sort of thing. And you go, okay, I'm going to go get it now. I don't have to wait a year and a half, 2 years to get this new Xbox or whatever. And I think that's more appropriate for what it should be, I think, in the industry.
Yeah, I agree. And I Sam, me, and God, Ivan too, will never shut up about Bethesda's hype cycle and how perfect it is.
That's great. It's absolutely wonderful.
I remember Fallout 4. I remember when they first teased it before E3. I remember Ivan messaged me on Facebook because I didn't have Twitter at the time, and just basically the message was, "Let's start the hype train, baby." And it was 4 or 5 months of just hyping Fallout 4, but it then came out, and then that was it.
Yeah,
that's it. I don't understand the long hype cycles, especially for hardware. People are going to buy hardware regardless. Like, I understand why corporations want to hype their hardware and everything else, but I don't necessarily understand why we as consumers need to do that for them. Like, I understand getting excited for a game. Like, I am endlessly excited for Spyro and Spider-Man in September.
Oh, yeah. Spyro, sure.
But if you look at my Twitter, I don't think I've said anything about it. It's something to be excited about.
Yeah.
It's not something I need to talk about 24/7 or be. Though I still think the best Xbox Scarlet subtweets go to Mike's own Juan, who keeps posting GIFs of Scarlett Johansson in my feed.
The sad part is it took me a little while to figure out what the hell he was doing.
What are your guys' thoughts on? I've kind of said my piece. What are your guys' thoughts on hype cycles for consoles, software, just in general?
So I'm very much of a split personality, Jared. If you don't mind me,
go for it.
Quick on this, and then I'll let you have your say. But
I mean,
my study is engineering. That's what I'm in college for, computer engineering. So I love hardware. I really do. I can talk about hardware all day long. But as far as these hype cycles go, at least let the hardware be announced in the first place. Okay? Like, it was kind of ridiculous enough. We were already sort of stretching things when we didn't have a name for what Scorpio was going to be. But I understand why Microsoft did things that way. So, it's like, whatever. But we literally just got the X. The PS5 has not been announced. Stop it. Both of you. Both of you. Just cut it out. Look at God of War. Okay? See if these, like, the developers are still optimizing these games and figuring out how to make games more beautiful and more interactive and doing incredible things with them. So just calm down. It's going to be all right. And when they announce the hardware, then we can start talking specs and then we can be excited. But until then, any talk about it is utterly pointless.
Thank you. Speculation.
That's all I've got to say, Jared. By all means, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, speculation is okay, but to the point where you're talking about every day, no, just stop. Just wait till it's announced. Then talk about it a little bit. Get excited. But then get more hyped when it actually comes out and it's in your hands. Until then, just relax. That's all. That's all I really got.
Yeah, I mean, there should not have been anything said. There should not have been anything. The official, there used to be a time when the official word was, "We don't comment on speculation." But I mean,
I know why they did it, Mike. I know why.
I know why too.
People have been screaming at them that they're going to get out of the console business, so I get it. That was to shut that argument up, but they were in a no-win situation there.
They needed something. They needed to do something to keep the fans kind of drag them or string them along a little bit so they can stay interested.
Well, not even that. It wasn't even for the fans. It was towards the critics because it doesn't matter. Dude, the day that the Xbox One S was announced and Project Scorpio was announced, people were more convinced than ever that Xbox was going to be spun out by Microsoft. And so that's what their whole E3 was about. Yes. Oh, dude, I'm dead serious.
Oh, yeah.
Mike and Nick know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
No, you guys, you remember the whole, wait a minute, why are you announcing 2 consoles? That's confusing narrative. You remember that whole
shtick?
I
remember that.
People ran with
you just killed the Xbox Scorpio by
and then they actually won like what was it 4 or 5 NPDs in a row, but I rest my case. The point is, like, I understand why they did that because that was aimed at their critics. That was saying, look, in addition to the games, in addition to these studios, we are going to be making consoles in the future, especially because they just pointed out that they were working on console level streaming to people's computers and phones. And so it's like, because of that, they needed to reassure, hey, we're also going to be making consoles. But the problem is, as usual, people are going to take that and run to the hills with it. It's a no-win situation.
It's how they say it. And
how would you have preferred they said it? I'm curious because I don't disagree with you at all. I'm just like, how would you have?
I would have continued to say we want to bring our games to every place we possibly can imagine, every place that you could possibly play, from the PC to your mobile phone to your Xbox console. We're dedicated to making our games available for as many people as we can, but not at the expense of those of you who are loyal console gamers. We will never get out of that space. That's all you have to say. We'll never.
All right, that would have been better.
Instead of saying, "Hey, our guys are already working on the next Xbox." Oh no! Shut up! You just put the Xbox One X out. Just say we are never getting out of this space. That's all.
I can't disagree. That would have been better. The problem is those of us who are sane already know that the next Xbox is being designed, and we're like,
everybody knows that. When your console comes out, you're always working on the next one. That's been from the beginning of time. But they don't tell you that.
Right.
It's usually a post-mortem.
I think the problem with how Microsoft does PR in general, and it's partially because Phil has the whole nice guy persona too. I feel like his answers are always left too open-ended. And once you leave your answers open to interpretation, people will run to the hills with your quotes.
Yeah, they take it and they spin it in their own way as to how they thought it was. And
look for a perfect example. We'll use PlayStation's example. Look at Yoshida. He did that speech or that interview at that developers conference. Everyone remembers that. And he said that one of the quotes that, of course, every news media site ran with, we didn't, thank the Lord.
I would have slapped anyone who did, but go ahead.
The quote that people were running with is that he said that PlayStation as a whole had shortcomings in the multiplayer first-party space. And that they didn't really have the studios that supported them in the multiplayer space in the first-party or second-party department. And holy cow, did everyone just skip the other 20 minutes of that interview and just take that one soundbite? It's the same thing that happens to Phil. It's the same thing that happens to Ybarra. It's just how media operates. We see it with news media in general too. But I find games journalism, people tend to be a lot more
liberal,
sensationalist. Is that a good word for it? Because what I always find annoying is they'll have this quote as the title of the article, And it'll be like, Yoshida says first-party multiplayer studios are bad, or they don't have them, or blah, 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 blah. And then you go in and you read the actual quote they have in the article, and it's not even anywhere close to what that was said. And you're just sitting there like, you're just trying to make people angry. And that annoys the bejesus out of me. And it annoys the hell out of me when you take things out of context to forward your own thinking. It's like the whole Xbox is getting out of the console variety because Phil said this. Xbox doesn't care about single player games. Like, I am so tired of getting mentions on Twitter from guys being like, God of War sold this many million copies. How wrong was Phil that single player games are hard to make now? I'm like,
yeah, I like what Matt Piscatella, who, by the way, shout out to him, he's a fantastic analyst in the video game space. Really good. I loved his rebuttal to that. And he said, yeah, you only have to have a AAA team work for 5 years feverishly, get a 95 or a 94 on Metacritic, combine that with a gigantic marketing cycle, and pray good word of mouth gets around. It's easy.
Oh, yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, no, it's there's always exceptions to the rules. And people like to spin things their own way, and it's annoying, and it kills me because I feel like honest fans of things get pooped on. I'm going to use pooped on because I try to keep profanity down. But I feel like there's people that honestly, it boils my blood on social media when I see someone who's a genuinely nice person and they'll post something they're excited for, and then people will latch onto that and just absolutely dive down their throat about why you can't enjoy this. And I'm like, this person's not being aggressive. They're not doing anything. They're just like, hey, I'm really excited for this. Like, I'll use a perfect example. My brother posted on Twitter. He's like, I'm really excited for Crackdown 3. Crackdown's one of my favorite franchises from Microsoft.
Ooh. Bad move.
You don't do that. You don't post that on Twitter. You don't post anything positive about Crackdown 3.
Is there anything left that's positive about Crackdown 3, though?
It still exists.
It still exists.
They haven't canceled it.
Yes.
It's still apparently coming out on February 22nd.
Okay, the February 22nd is like the favorite day of like every.
We can do a whole show on that
more now.
So
people,
I want to know. I want to know why nobody said a word when Amy Hennig said exactly the same thing Phil said.
We know why, Mike. Come on, we know exactly why.
I know, but I'm trying to.
Because the only takeaway from that Amy Hennig interview was that she really loved working for Sony. That was the only takeaway news media took from that interview. They didn't take the other parts.
Oh, I thought the big takeaway was that she had left EA like months before anybody knew.
Yeah, that was the second big takeaway. But if you went by the sensationalist headlines on N4G and Twitter, you'd think the only big news was that she loved working at Sony. When in reality, that was one tiny line out of a giant interview. But no, I mean, look, even Pete Hines and Todd Howard have said the same thing about single-player games. They said outright in a recent interview that, look, Prey, Dishonored, Wolfenstein, The Evil Within, they aren't going to sell well. We prop them up with our sales from Fallout and Elder Scrolls because those games just do crazy numbers. But the reality is those other franchises from all their other studios are done for like a niche market. Each one is targeted towards a very, very niche crowd, particularly Arcane's games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and now, Black Ops 4, no campaign, the bigger games are losing everybody's battle royale now. So, you don't have, you have to fill the gap with a God of War, with a Hellblade, with a Detroit, with a game like that. I mean, if you look at what the big games are right now being played on the Xbox. Just taking the Xbox One for a moment. Sea of Thieves, State of Decay. What else? Fortnite and
Let's say and blank. There's really not much else right now.
Right.
At least for
Fortnite and
games.
PUBG.
Yeah.
Those are your big four games. Which one of those are single player games?
None.
But the thing is, I mean, if you look over on the PlayStation, it's almost exactly the same.
It is.
Well, that's the thing. That's the problem with the attitude that social media provides is people think in their Twitter space out of their 2,000 people there is I'm going to say 2,000 to 3,000 people that are roughly active in this quote unquote gaming community. I use community in the lightest sense of the terms. Is they think that represents the whole gaming market. The couple of thousand people on Twitter don't represent the buying console majority. People are buying consoles, and they're like, most of my friends that play video games, like guys I work with, everything else, they play GTA and Fortnite. That's it. And you want to know why they bought PlayStation over Xbox? Because it was $100 cheaper back 3 or 4 years ago.
Right. Well, you wonder why. We always wonder why people are still buying GTA 5. That game charts every month like clockwork, and sometimes even in the top 10. They're not buying it. They're not buying it for GTA 5. They're buying it for GTA Online.
Exactly. Yeah. It's because anyone who gets a new console, it has been proven there's data to support it. People get a new console, and it's one of the first 2 games they pick up.
Yeah.
It's just one of those games that, even with past generations, all your friends have it. Everybody has it. And it's one of those games where you kind of just, when it comes out, you just get it and play it because it's like...
It's like growing, I was gonna say, Jared will be with me on this one. It's like growing up in the 360 era when you're like a dude bro kind of gamer. Like everybody went to Call of Duty release parties. Everyone did LANs. Everyone did that kind of stuff.
Growing up, me and a school friend. Sorry to cut you off there, Nick. But Halo was another big one growing up because me and a buddy would always, as soon as any Halo game would come out, we'd skip the day and go buy Halo and spend the day playing co-op and multiplayer online all day long. And that'll be the game you play for like months and months and months and months. And it'd be just that game. It's the
Halo is what sold me on console competitive gaming.
Yeah, me too.
I got it on PC when it was like the Combat Evolved or whatever, when they released the first one to PC. I played it on PC and I was like, this is amazing. I'm like, this game is absolutely fantastic.
It's the bee's knees.
And my friend's like, oh, there's a couple other ones on the Xbox. I'm like, there's more? He's like, yeah, they're just not on PC yet. He's like, you could wait a couple of years or whatever, and they might come over. But he's like, you could just buy the console. I'm like, sold. Take my money.
Didn't wait. You'd still be waiting.
Yeah, and like I did Halo tournaments. I did Call of Duty tournaments. I did all that competitive Doritos Mountain Dew crap through 360 generation.
Even my multiplayer right now has to be co-op, and I would prefer it be co-op into the campaign of something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Do you play A Way Out, Mike?
I have not.
I've heard.
Oh, you played that, Nick?
No, I haven't. I haven't played.
Oh. Man, I wish Eric was here. He and I played that together. Real good game. Very unique. Yeah. Very unique. It's odd to see a story-driven, non-multiplayer game that requires you to be in co-op. That's a very, very unique type of game.
And it did really well too. Like I think we all know it exceeded expectations substantially. And they go,
that's called the Joseph Ferris marketing.
Right.
Yeah, and now that's the reason why they got SOS coming out too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that one.
It's awesome, and I think while there is a main focus on multiplayer, we're seeing, as we've seen with the culling, Battleborn, Lawbreakers. I'm trying to think of some other ones that missed the mark. Just because you make an online multiplayer game that's decent doesn't mean you're going to be successful with it. Functionality-wise, Lawbreakers was probably one of the better games that I've played, but
launched on the wrong system.
Launched on the wrong system and launched on PC the same week as PUBG.
Yep.
And the same week as PUBG and what was it? A big Overwatch event was happening as well.
Oh, no, Overwatch did that intentionally. They saw Lawbreakers was coming out. They said they made a special event that never happened before on that day. On launch
right,
day.
and then finally Cliffy B's controversial takes on Twitter.
It just rolled into a perfect ball of failure, basically.
Yeah, got to give it to Blizzard though. They're sneaky. And they're smart in how they do their
well,
games.
you got to realize Blizzard is the only company that's owned by Activision that gets to dictate what they want to do.
Well,
So because they literally everything Blizzard makes is a gold mine.
Well, yeah, that's why they're Activision Blizzard now, because they're like, oh, Blizzard does these games really, really well. Let's buy them. Oh, they want to be co-partners. Sure, why not? So let's look at the money and
just look at how much support that
insane support for all their games.
Support they give their games between like Overwatch, Diablo. Diablo's support over the years has been insane. People still are playing that and buying that to this day. And that's the thing is like you're seeing a lot of these games have legs. I know a lot of the NLG guys will attest to this. Is Rainbow Six Siege is fantastic.
Man, that's great.
And still charts 2 years later.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft has really mastered the service game. Between what they turned the Division around, which I never thought to this day I would ever see that game turn around. They turned For Honor around. That game bottomed out so hard. And I went, no, they'll shut down the servers and this game's toast. But nope, they got dedicated servers. They did a bunch of fan events. They gave away some free DLC. Now it's a big game again, and they did amazing things with Ghost Recon Wildlands. Not what I would want in a Ghost Recon game, but still a decent game.
Or a Splinter Cell.
Nick's face is like, don't mention it.
Yeah,
I don't even want to talk about it. I want to talk about that. I had to sit through a dancing panda at their E3 conference and not see Splinter Cell.
That was my favorite moment because
you know what? When I can go ahead and say when we do our pick article, our inner circle top disappointments of the year, we can go ahead and say Splinter Cell not showing up is the big one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
I do not understand what's going on there.
It reminded me of when Conquer came to Project Spark. Remember that?
Yeah, except not that.
I know
that wasn't as bad though, because that was just
you couldn't even play as Sam Fisher. In Wildlands, you couldn't even. You were
but it seemed like it was okay because it seemed like okay, they got Michael Ironside back. We're getting revved up. It seemed like it was a good way to lead into a Splinter Cell game. Like of all the E3 predictions we had, I think all of us at some point or another said, "Oh yeah, and Splinter Cell will be there because of course it's just the obvious thing."
For me, it was like they had the build-up. They had the perfect build-up. They had Michael Ironside on Inside Xbox. They had the Ghost Recon Wildlands DLC. I'm like, oh, man. And then they're like, and then there was the leak that there was going to be a Splinter Cell game, BC, down the road. It was like,
Walmart Canada.
Walmart Canada, right.
It was part of the leak.
Conviction and... Yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, here it comes.
On behalf of all Canadians and Walmart Canada and we say sorry.
That was a very Canadian
on the podcast is apologizing. How original.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. No, seriously, like that was a huge. I remember when they wrapped up
Conquer. At least you could play as Conquer in Project Spark. That's all I'm saying.
That was just insulting. This is just
insulting as shit. This is insulting and then some.
I remember like literally as soon as the Ubisoft conference like ended, I was in Google Hangout with Rage because we were writing all the new stuff, and I was just literally just screaming profanity about how there was no Splinter Cell, and I open up my Twitter and the first thing I see from Rand is,
dude. We didn't go to the Ubisoft conference, okay? So we were getting lunch, right? Me, myself, and Lord Cognito, we met up with a couple of the SDGC guys who were all out there, Zach, Finn, and Jay. And we were all having lunch at this bar. We got some burgers, and we literally set up a phone to play the conference because we were all sure that Splinter Cell was going to be there. And it just got worse and worse and worse as the whole thing went on. It was ridiculous.
It's like Yves Guillemot just reached through and just went right to the heart and went, and just
it's true.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at my Xbox. It's like my game share partner just downloaded Splinter Cell Conviction, and I just increased my disappointment.
Just the cherry on top.
just.
Oh man.
I'm gonna have to send him death threats via text message later.
Oh my god! And to make it worse, that was the non. Isn't that's not the one? That's not the one with the fake Sam Fisher voice, right?
It is. It is the one.
That's the one.
It doesn't have my. It had a good co-op mode, but Sam Fisher didn't sound like Sam Fisher, so I was like,
yeah.
Wait, you're talking about Splinter Cell Conviction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conviction have Ironside in it, or was it the one before that?
I thought Conviction had Ironside. Give me. I could have sworn.
Hold on, I'm looking it up now.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I just verified it. No, it was the one that came after that didn't.
What?
It was
Blacklist.
Blacklist.
Yes, Blacklist did not, and even then, they actually revealed recently that was simply because he was undergoing chemotherapy at the time, and he just couldn't do it. So,
right.
Oh, so that wasn't a contract thing or anything like that.
No. He would have done it. He tried to, and they outright told him, like, no, dude, you need to rest. You need to get through this. That's the reason he wasn't involved.
There's very few voice actors I know like in the gaming side of things, but his voice is like one of the most memorable. Even my dad, who only like used to watch me play video games in the basement with my brothers, knew Michael Ironside's voice. It's just one of those memorable things. It's just like it's like I swear every video game has to have Troy Baker in it now. Like every video game in history has Troy Baker, whether it's an NPC or what. But I swear that guy's in every video game I play now. And there's another guy too. I never remember his name.
Nolan North.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I swear he's in every video game I play, or both of them are in every video game I play. It's just interchangeable. It's like, oh hey.
I'll tell you who the third one, the up and comer, is. Laura Bailey. She's getting a lot of really good voice roles.
Yeah.
Why does that name ring a bell?
I mean, because name a prominent female role in video games over the last 5 years, there's a high chance.
Oh, okay. So like Lara Croft, maybe?
No, not Lara Croft. That's Camilla Luddington. But Kate in Gears 4, that's Laura Bailey.
Oh, okay.
Who was it? Nadine in Uncharted 4.
Oh, okay.
Also her.
Cool.
She's voicing MJ. She's voicing Mary Jane in Marvel's Spider-Man when that comes out.
Oh,
and there's a bunch of.
She's done a ton of movies.
Oh yeah, and she's done a bunch of movies as well. So
cool. Did not know that. I'm learning something new every day.
Yeah. She's set for life.
Oh yeah, definitely the royalties alone.
and she's relatively young too. She's like 37.
Oh, nice. Good for her. Good for her.
And I'm sitting here in my basement talking video games on a podcast. I'm turning 25. All right.
You got another 13 years to go.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'll get your big break doing voice acting. So.
Hello. Yeah, no, it's not happening. I have one. I have my wife. I was talking to my wife, and she's like, "When you do podcasts, your voice is so flat tone. You should try using different varieties and pitches." I'm like, "I have one flat pitch. It's bass. That's it."
The whole reason I got into Splinter Cell with Michael Ironside is not because I didn't know who Michael Ironside was. Like, if you ever saw Top Gun, that's the first time I ever saw Michael Ironside in Top Gun. And just since then, it's Total Recall and V and Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers.
You have to. You only have to excuse him for being in the next Karate Kid, but other than that, he's pretty much. I mean, he was that tough guy actor before he became Sam Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what drew me to those games. Was like, oh yeah, Michael Ironside is going to be Sam Fisher. I'm in.
Yeah, there's just something about his performance, and another one was Hader in Metal Gear Solid series. Just something about those two guys, about how they voiced those roles, was just absolutely fantastic to me, and drew me into those games a lot more than anything else. It's really interesting how voice acting can really change how you feel about a game, because one of the reasons I was never able to pull myself through Horizon Zero Dawn is I found the voice acting to be absolutely terrible.
Really?
Yeah, I just was not a fan of it. Wasn't fond of the characters. I wasn't fond of just the voice acting. It just didn't draw me in. And with an open world game, if you want me to donate 40 hours of my life, I need that pull in. I guess I didn't give it enough time to pull me in, or what. I just never got pulled into it.
Huh.
And I make Sam cringe every day with it.
I'm not.
He's like, don't get me started. Just move on, man. Move on.
I'll get Anchor in here for an episode one time. We'll start talking about Horizon Zero yawns.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I gotta make Sam shake his head at least once an episode.
Mike, you see what I gotta deal with?
I see. I would like to, by the way, point out that I have spoken very little in this podcast, and we are still almost at 2 hours. It's not my fault tonight. Just wanted to let everybody know I'm not the cause.
Oh man, no, I can't pretend like I don't talk a lot either.
You really can't.
Just to put it nicely, nah, you can't. Nah.
All right, I know who's getting betrayed next time we play in PUBG. Hey Sam, go bring the Jeep around. Me and Anchor will wait for you.
It is easy. It is easy to talk video games. I mean, you talk about this stuff all night.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Is like that's like the biggest part of why I love this podcast so much. Is like I've never felt it's a chore for me to do this podcast, and that's one of the vibes I got from doing the Multiverse show with Ivan and Fame for so long. That I wanted to transition podcast, because I've been part of other podcasts before, and it'd be like sitting there 15 minutes before it starts and going, I don't want to do this tonight. But like literally, I sat there at like 5 p.m. today. I was like, I get to do a podcast today.
Yeah, that was actually me earlier. I was like, "Ooh, it's podcast. It was almost podcast time soon." I'm actually kind of excited.
Yeah, it's just exciting to sit down and talk to people about video games. It's great to get people like Mike on who have a lot more knowledge of video games past my expertise, in the very least. And that's why I have guys like Sam and Jared and Eric, because I have gaps in my knowledge, and I'll go off on tangents, and Sam will be like, well, no, this is the actual fact. He just asterisks and corrects me as I go along. So by the end, there's like at the end of my rant, there's like 8 corrections at the bottom with the actual factual information.
Hey, he doesn't just edit your articles in the site. He edits what you do in the podcast too.
Pretty much.
He's a master editor.
Oh man, yeah. So yeah, I think that pretty much does it for us tonight. Well, thanks everyone for coming out and listening to us ramble about different things and getting sidetracked and just doing what we usually do. And yeah, it's been a fantastic time. So we're gonna do outros, and then I've got a couple of things to announce as well. But we'll get to outros first. Sam?
So, I mean, everyone knows you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert if you'd like to talk to me about video games, movies, tech, things like that. I'm more than happy to. Also, you can find everything I write on tickgamesnetwork.com, reviews, news, opinion pieces. We got it all.
Yeah, we do. And Jared?
Well, people can find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X and at tickgamesnetwork.com as well for writing up some articles and other things here and there, but mostly just news and information.
And I'll plug Eric as well. Go give EC Jackson on Twitter a follow and send him your best regards. And just wish him and his family the best going forward. And I hope everything over the next week smooths out for him and he gets back into his usual day-to-day.
Definitely.
activities. I'm always so awkward when I do these things. I just don't know what to say, honestly. I just feel I feel for people. That's one of the things with social media is you feel for people. Like I've known Eric for a long time, and like seeing him have to struggle with his daughter, it made me think about the stuff I had to go through with my daughter when she was younger, and it's horrible. So really, if you're watching this, just go send Eric your regards from all of us, and yeah, so we'll get Mike to do his outro and his little make sure you plug yourself, sir.
All right. So now Mike Mullis from the original Next Level Gaming. You can find us actually on Twitch at twitch.tv/OG_NL Gaming. You'll find me on Twitter at StingerNLG, and of course our official NL Gaming Twitter feed at OG_NL Gaming. We have the NLG show that goes on Friday nights at 9:30 p.m. With my unbelievable gaming crew of Sea of Thieves gamers, basically. Peter, HTK, Nathan, Natty Red Gals, our resident retro expert, along with myself, Crazy Juan Gallardo, and it's a great time. Juan does a retro recommendation every week, so once a week he'll bring up something from the archives to talk about, and then we just we're kind of like the Seinfeld show. Sometimes when you get into these weeks of nothing, it's hard to find stuff to talk about, so we just kind of figure it out.
Just have a little jingle whenever you guys go live.
Yeah, you know, and then you should hopefully start seeing some stuff from me on the Tick Gaming site. Sam and I are discussing and try to work out. But part of our affiliation with Tick is for us to kind of help out with some articles and things. And I've got some stuff in the archives for the backward compatibility that I would love to bring forward, and we're talking about that.
Awesome.
Wonderful to hear. Wonderful to hear.
Yeah, we're a very happy Tick affiliate.
I guess I should mention that the Gaming Perspective is also an affiliate of the Inner Circle, if you can figure out from the editor and the two writers that are on the show.
And then the affiliate being the fourth.
Yeah, well,
right.
Oh, yeah, and Eric's an affiliate too via Basement Radio Arcade podcast. So yeah, like basically, yeah. So yeah, that's the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I implore you to check out what Mike and his crew do. They do amazing work and have probably, I have no problem saying, probably the highest production value of any podcast in this gaming community by a long shot.
Well, thank you. It's just, you know, it evolved over time. Sometimes I go back because we do archive this stuff on YouTube because Twitch doesn't hold stuff for more than 60 days for us. So I've gone back and I've looked and I've seen how we've evolved from a pre-recorded show with a Skype recorder and editing to Google Hangouts, which is what you guys are doing, and then just deciding to try something new. So, you know, we've played with this format for a while, and actually at the end of this month, Peter Hutink, HTK, is actually going to, this next podcast coming up will be his 2-year anniversary on the show. So, you know, the really nice part about what we've got going on is my crew, who I would be nothing without, to be honest with you. You know, I finally have a really solid group of guys that love to play games, love to, you know, just they're gamers first and foremost, you know, and that brings just something really special to what we do. And you know, it's like you guys. I mean, I have such immense, you know, Sam knows how much immense respect I have for him and what he's doing with the Tick site, because his writing style is fantastic. And actually, Jarrett, while we were talking, and we were starting to talk about the stuff this earlier with how the console companies are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I saw your Sony and your Sony news article about how they're doing and their stuff like that. And so what I like about what you guys are doing is there's no BS in the articles. There's no commentary. There's no, this is what's going on. Make up your mind how you feel about it. And I think that is That's what draws me to Tick so much. So you guys really are the only place I go.
Well, thank you for that. Like,
That's high praise.
yeah, I just want to say, like, misinformation is the worst information to have. That's all.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is.
And
we don't want to tell people what to think. We want them to have the tools to think.
Yes, exactly.
And I will give the unsung heroes. Sam deserves all the credit in the world. I also give credit to Jason, who I know does not watch my podcast. Damn it. Jason does a fantastic job. He's a great editor as well, and he helps Sam out.
Yes.
And of course, Cal does fantastic work, and it helps us out hugely. And was great enough to bring my tiny little podcast into the affiliate program, which I'm grateful for. And I'm grateful for all the things that Tick has brought me, the friends, the opportunity to write, and just all around become more into this gaming industry as a whole. And it's just a great thing. And now I'm going to wrap up the podcast, because if we still have people listening at this point, congrats. Give yourselves a pat on the back.
We would go like outros for 10
I'd like to say one
been
more time, it's not my fault.
Because basically for the past 10 minutes, we've all been sitting around shaking each other's hands. It's been great.
That's right.
All right. So thank you guys for tuning into the Gaming Perspective episode 16. And also don't forget, you'll be able to check me not to be able to command the English language on the Iron Lords podcast tomorrow at 1 p.m.
I'm going to need an exact reconstruction of that tomorrow, okay? During your intro, I'm going to need you to do that again.
Can we just like make a quick clip and like a GIF or something and put it on Twitter?
Yeah, don't worry. I was going to start clipping the show for comedic value. I think that's going to be the first one. I'm dead. Can't do an outro. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in Gaming Perspective episode 16, and we will catch you guys all next week when we tackle crossplay, which will be Sam and Eric fighting each other with chairs. Peace.